That's what I would do. Now I'm gonna go to the Warrior Puzzling Cross.
Yeah, I always go to the underpass because
Because it's just a sharp, oh.
That's fine, there's two of you.
time. Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday to you all. Good morning. Welcome, council, people in the gallery, staff. I'd like to call to order this Development and Planning Services Committee meeting of Monday, April the 1st. You have an agenda in front of you. Staff, is there any additions to the agenda?
None from staff, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. Councillors, do you have any additions to the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to disclosure of interest. Any conflict of interest, councillors? Seeing none, we'll move down to reports. Report 5.1, Development Permit Application DP 422, TSL Developments Limited, 1441 10th Avenue Southwest Highway Service Tourist Commercial. There's a proposed motion on the screen. Is there someone who would like to move that motion? Thank you, Councillor Eliason. Second, Councillor Cannon. I'll have the administrator read the motion, please.
Moved by Councillor Eliason, seconded by Councillor Cannon, that the Development and Planning Services Committee recommends to Council that DP 422 be authorized for issuance for Lot A, Plan 10183, in accordance with the plans attached as Appendix 3 in the staff report dated March 26, 2019, and further that issuance be withheld subject to receipt of a letter of credit in the amount of 125% of an estimate for landscaping.
Thank you. I'll ask the Director of Development Services to outline that development permit application for us.
Your Worship, this is a form and character development permit application for the property at 1441 10th Avenue Southwest on the north side of 10th Avenue, east of Piccadilly Mall, and directly to the right or east of the new Pro Air and cheese store. The property is presently vacant, and what is proposed is a building with a just over 4,000 square foot footprint and 2 upper floor dwelling units. The drawings can be difficult to read in the agenda, so I'll bring these up to you, and if you want to pass these around.
Yeah, we can start with Councillor Lavery. Thank you very much.
You can see the dimensions a lot better on the large drawings. So this application was referred to the design review panel, which reviewed the drawings last month, and it was supported by the panel. There was a few questions on the landscaping plan. Along this frontage here, it's pretty hard to know where the road ends and where the property starts. There's some barriers along there right now. But what is proposed is a landscape island and 3 stalls here, and then 4 stalls against the front of the building, and the remainder of the stalls in the rear yard, similar to the Pro Air building, quite a similar layout. The building itself it appears to be a steel, almost like a conospan type building with a dressed up facade, and that was designed by Dennis Lowe. And because it's a commercial building, an architect had to sign off on the drawings, and Mark Lamerton signed off on those. It's pretty straightforward from staff's point of view. It's a relatively small development, but it will be a nice addition to this vacant lot, and staff thinks it will fill in nicely here. The setback has to be at least 10 meters back from the existing property line along 10th, because the current width of 10th Avenue is about almost 5 meters less than it should be. So the setbacks of the building, including the Pro Air building, took that widening into account. And you can see the vacant lot here. It is designated highway commercial. It's zone C3 service commercial. and staff support the application.
Great, thank you very much. Is there representation from the applicant in that gallery? Yes. Yeah, come on forward, please. If you just introduce yourself with your name and address.
Dave Ogilvy with Timberline Solutions. My home address is 1581 13th Avenue Southeast.
Welcome, Dave. Good to have you here this morning.
Thank you.
Is there anything that you wish to add to the director's report?
Nothing at this time, no.
Okay. I'll see if there's any questions from council. Council, do you have any questions for the applicant? It's pretty easy.
I think so.
All right. Thank you for coming forward. If we have any questions, I'll call you back.
Thank you.
Council, do you have any questions for staff? Okay. Any comments from council? Councillor Lindgren.
Thanks. I actually did have one question about parking. I spoke to the owner of Pro Air, and they had no concerns except for that sometimes when things are really busy down there and Momentum Gymnastics is operating at full bore, that there's a shortage of parking down there. Is there going to be adequate parking at this building?
We'll ask the Director of Development Services.
Your Worship, there is adequate parking that will be provided. 18 stalls are shown. The development requires 17 stalls. The report says it requires 47 stalls, so that's a typo. The 4 should be a 1, and that's on page 2 of the report. But yeah, 18 stalls is enough for 2 upper floor dwelling units and office and warehouse space on the main floor.
Great, thank you. Any further questions, Councillor Lindgren? Any comments from council? Okay, just before I call the question, and my comment is, first of all, this is exactly the kind of building we want in that place, with commercial on the bottom and dwelling units on top. I think the design of the building is terrific, looks attractive. I think landscaping is certainly adequate, and parking looks good too. So thank you for bringing it to us. We'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. So just for the applicants, you probably know the process. What will happen, this recommendation from development planning will go forward to council, and then council will look at it on Monday. Assuming council moves it forward, there would be public or hearing. I'll just ask the Director of Development Services or the CAO, when would the hearing be on this DP?
It would be a week from today, Your Worship, 7 p.m. in the evening.
So next Monday at 7 p.m., you're welcome to come back. Okay. Thank you very much. We'll go on to the second item. Second item this morning is zoning amendment application number 1145, Lawson Developments Limited, 960 12th Street Southeast, R1 to R8. Could I have a mover and a seconder for that? Councillor Louise Wallace-Richmond, Councillor Lindgren, thank you. I'll have the administrator read the motion.
Moved by Councillor Wallace-Richmond, seconded by Councillor Lindgren, that the Development and Planning Services Committee recommends to Council that a bylaw be prepared, adoption of which would amend zoning bylaw 2303 by rezoning Lot A, Plan 27050 from R1 single family to R8 residential suite zone.
Great, thank you. Director of Development Services, would you explain the application?
Your Worship, it's a corner lot located at Auto Road and 12th Street Southeast. It's about 1/2 an acre in size, and the proposal is to rezone it from R1 to R8. In conjunction, there's a subdivision application that would subdivide off this house and then 2 additional lots to the north. And the idea is that those 2 lots would also allow residential suite zoning. There was a boundary adjustment just recently within the past 6 months, which redefined the lot boundary. And with that boundary adjustment, the lot to the east, the vacant lot to the east, we received some extra road reserve widening, because there is a road reserve extending from Auto Road up. Actually, if you look at the other map, it's probably easier to tell, but up into these lots here, because these lots have potential for subdivision in the future. That's a bit of a side note, but interesting nonetheless. It does put the property into the exemption status of the servicing bylaw. So basically, road frontage improvements are exempt from subdivision.
Thank you very much. I see Mr. Lawson's in the audience this morning. Morning, Blake. Do you want to come forward and chat with us?
Thanks, Your Worship. Yeah, we are the agent and the owner on this property, and our goal on this project is we've put a significant amount of money into renovations in the old house there to upgrade the house, both interior and exterior and structural, and then the other two proposed lots are we're hoping to go to R8. The initial goal was to have a couple of rental units on both the additional lots there, and that's still a goal at this time. We'll definitely be putting one rental unit on the lot furthest to the north, and then the goal is still to do the same with the middle lot, but that's going to be decided at a later date.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Council, do you have any questions for Mr. Lawson? Councillor Wallace-Richmond.
Thanks for being here. So the rental would be the whole house or just the suite?
The whole house.
The whole house, okay. Thanks.
Any other questions for Mr. Lawson? So, like the R8 piece, I don't know if there's space or not, but the intention is to have the suite within the house in each of these lots.
That's right, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. I don't see any other questions for you at this time. Council, do you have any questions for staff? Okay. Can we just go back to the overall picture that shows the photo? That one's fine too. What is that road sort of thing in the north of the properties? What is that? I drive by there all the time.
There's cars for sale all the time.
I guess, I'm just curious about who owns it and.
Your Worship, it's actually the city. It's part of Auto Road. Right up to the red here. Mm-hmm. Here's a parcel boundary. Goes like this. So there's excess road, and that had to do when Auto Road was realigned about 15 years ago. For some reason, this remnant exists. Oh, Rob knows.
Okay, Director of Engineering and Public Works.
Your Worship, you can see where Auto Road, the cul-de-sac is, the remnant to the north, and that used to connect with the existing Auto Road, and in 2009 the road was extended, and so there's a lot of utilities in that corridor, in that open space, so it would be filled with right-of-ways if it was ever to be given up.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you. It's interesting how quick we forget that Auto Road used to branch that way. It did not used to continue. Okay. The other question I have for staff is driveway access for these 3 lots off of 12th. Will each of them have their own driveway?
Your Worship, I don't know off the top of my head the answer to that right now.
Yeah, I wonder if Mr. Lawson knows.
Yes, all 3 off 12.
Okay, yeah, all 3 would have their own driveway off there. Okay. All right, thank you. Does Council have any comments? Councillor Flynn.
Thank you, Worship. This is the exact type of infill and a little bit higher density zoning that we want. I will comment that I think moving forward, we need to really consider moving this responsibility to staff, because I know we're going to hear about changing the nature of a neighborhood and parking and traffic. And in my opinion, we've turned down maybe one R8 in 15 years. I think we could pass this responsibility to staff, but I will vote in favor wholeheartedly because this is exactly the infill that we want And I support all three being R8, if that's the plan.
Thank you, Councillor Flynn. Councillor Wallace-Richmond.
Thanks, Your Worship. So under this proposal, we would take one unit of housing and turn it into 6, some of which would be rental. Very important process to follow, but I tend to agree with Councillor Flynn that at some point we're sending the message that R8s are welcome. I just want to point out that to me the rental piece is very important in this, and I appreciate that thought from the developer, and I'm happy to support it.
Thank you. Any other comments, Council? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Passes unanimously. And so, yeah, Mr. Lawson, you know how this process works, so I won't explain it. 5.3, zoning amendment application number 1146, Templin, and RNS Wong, 3200 20th Street Northeast, R7 to R8. We have a proposed motion. Would someone like to move that? Councillor Flynn, seconder. Seconder I need for the motion. Thank you, Councillor Wallace-Richmond. I'll have the administrator read the motion.
Moved by Councillor Flynn, seconded by Councillor Wallace-Richmond, that the Development and Planning Services Committee recommends to Council that a bylaw be prepared, adoption of which would amend zoning bylaw 2303 by rezoning lot 9, plan EPP 55453 from R7 large lot single family to R8 residential suite zone.
Thank you. Director of Development Services.
Your Worship, this property is in Woodland Heights subdivision, 3200 20th Street Northeast. It's one of the last vacant lots in that subdivision. It still has some trees on it. It's 1/3 of an acre in size. It's zoned R7 large lot residential, and the proposal is to rezone it to R8 residential suite zone. The applicant and owner, Will Wong, I thought he was going to be here.
He is.
He might be. He might be right out of my field of view. Yes. And like the other application before this, COCP supports it, but the city's zoning bylaw requires a rezoning application.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Wong, would you like to add anything to that report?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, I will call on you if we have any questions for you. How does that sound? Okay. All right. Council, any questions for the applicant or for staff? Any comments? Councillor Flynn.
Thank you, Worship. I will again vote in support. And it's interesting, this all started as R7 and now more than half are R8. And I think it was you that made the comment at a previous meeting when we were dealing with a new subdivision that it makes it much better when people buy that they know the whole thing is zoned R8. So I like the way we're moving to full subdivisions as R8. And again, I would have had no problem with staff making this decision. I will vote in support.
Councillor Lavery.
Yes, thanks, Mayor Harrison, and I certainly will vote in support as well. And I think it's we standardly recommend to talk to neighbors about the application, so just in advance of the hearing. And I think in the past of the previous R8s that are there, we have seen some opposition to R8s, so it's I don't think that's necessarily going to. There is in the hearing process, that's been the history of that, so it really is best to talk to the neighbors in advance before you come to hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lavery. Any other comments from council? Thank you. Just as an aside, first of all, of course, we encourage secondary suites becoming legal, and so really appreciate this approach. I'm curious about the taxation differences, and it's a little off topic as far as the zone goes, but if you have a secondary suite in your house, what's the taxation difference? CEO, I don't know if you can answer that or not.
Your Worship, there is a difference, and it's based on the actual use of the property, of course, which is determined by BC assessment ultimately.
Right.
So I don't have any numbers here today, but that's essentially how it works.
As far as street side, curbside recycling and water and sewer, our local taxation, how does secondary suite affect that?
If you have a secondary suite, you're charged for an additional garbage collection and utilities.
And utilities, that's what I thought. All right, thank you. So it's to everyone's benefit, actually. All right, any other comments? I'll call the question then. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. And so this application will go to council on Monday with this recommendation, and then it will be advertised. The public hearing, Director of Development Services, when will we anticipate?
2 council meetings from now.
Okay, so it'll be the first council meeting in May.
Last one in April.
Second one in April.
Second one in April, so that would be the 15th.
No, 22nd.
Okay, I'm getting close. That will be the 22nd, is that correct? 23rd, okay, because of the holiday. Well, I'm trying to lead you the right way, but not very well. So the 23rd of April.
Maybe just talk to staff.
Good advice.
He'll get a formal notice in the mail too.
Okay.
Is it April Fool's Day? See you in March.
That's my excuse. All right, 23rd of April, 7 o'clock. We'll see you here. Thank you. Is there any other business from council? Okay, we have a motion to adjourn.
Moved by Council Wallace Richmond, seconded by Council Lindgren, that the Development and Planning Services Committee meeting of April 1st, 2019 be adjourned.
All those in favor? Thank you very much. Thank you, gallery. Thank you, council and staff.
That's pretty good, your worship, all the way to 6 months before you made your first mistake.
Oh, you don't know the half of it.
Yeah.